If you're ready to experience more peace and joy in your life, if you want to feel more comfortable in your own skin, and if you're ready to discover and expand on your energetic gifts and personal power, you're in the right place. So here's your host, Kelle Sparta.
Welcome back to Spirit Guides. I'm your host, Kelle Sparta, spiritual coach, spiritual business coach, transformational shaman, and whatever else, right? And today is the day that we talk about how the magic is real. And we prove that to you by doing readings on air and things like that. So sound healings, whatever, right? So today we're going to do something a little bit different. And I'm getting a reading. And so April Hunter, thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you.
So April and I were talking. I had put up my sales page for my spiritual business consultation and was asking for some feedback. And April was kind enough to give me some really great feedback on that. And in the process, we got talking and she's like, oh, I do this. I looked at her profile and she does work with Profit First. And Profit First has changed my life. And the process teaches you how to manage your business, finances, and all that, and your personal finances too. And so I said we should talk, right? Everybody. And I'm like, I probably have some clients for you, right? And so we started talking and she and I ended up having a discussion about the business energy review that I do. And she started talking about the process that she does, which is a business alignment reading. And I was like, hey, you want to trade readings? And she's like, this week that she would do a reading for me. And then next week, I'm going to do a reading for her. And so we're going to get that done. And so the way that April does her process is that she starts off with the information, informs it with some astrology. And so I sent her over the information. She reads both the person and the business, right? Mm-hmm. And so I sent her over my birthday, time, location, and then to the best of my recollection, the business's starting time, because that was a long time ago. It was a very long time ago. It was 2006, so a very long time ago. And so she did a reading for me. And what she does is she makes a video and sends it to you. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to drop the video into the recording, depending on what platform you're listening on. And then I'll get to ask my questions. And so I'm going to let you guys watch that video now.
Welcome to your business alignment reading. I'm excited to be able to offer this reading to you through the lens of human design. Human design has some anchor points in it that really, really help me connect your purposes in life, your soul purposes in life, and then using your business entity as its own energy field and making sure that you and your business align, and that no matter what you do in your business, at what stage or phase that you do in your business, you operate under those conditions and with that general goal in mind to achieve success. So what that looks like is that as long as you are fulfilling that mission with the universe and your soul contract with the universe, and your business is also fulfilling its soul contract with the universe, then you tend to find success. When you start to operate outside of your individual design, or your business starts to operate outside of its design, then you tend to start swirling in circles, which then becomes financially expensive. So this is really the base to building how do I grow without that financial whirlpool that is so expensive. When you are working through situations and problems and ideas within your growth, a lot of times when we don't know the answer and we're asking that how do I question, if you have the guardrails, it makes those decisions a lot less in quantity and intensity, so that you're able to move forward even if it's not necessarily clear, and you're able to make good decisions that are still in alignment with that soul contract. So this is your human design chart, and some of the overall themes that we're going to talk about before we get into the small details within the chart are that you are what is known in traditional human design as a generator. When we use a more enlightened language, because words are powerful and reach further if we use a more positive language, then that is an alchemist, which is exactly what you have been doing in creating all of the content that you were telling me about the other day. So your authority is a sacral authority, which is a very much intuitive authority. It is that yes, no, or a guttural sound. You might even feel it within your body of feeling the answer of yes, no, or yes, I want to do that, or I really don't want to do that. You have a 2-fire profile, which is all about responding and community building, but responding in your own time and within your own wisdom. There's a solitary aspect of it. And then you have 1 channel, which is the preservation channel or the sustenance channel, which we will get into in the details beyond. Your design type is a generator, and what that means is that you tend to have a lot of energy as long as you can answer that question with a yes, no, intuitive answers. So the best way to make sure that you understand what your body is telling you, and not that this is generally a problem for you because you have great intuition, but my favorite method is to go stand in front of the fridge and start asking myself if I want to eat certain objects within the fridge, and I'll either get a or a nope. And you might have noticed that on our call the other day when you were asking me yes, no questions, I will answer with a or a and everybody's sounds are a little bit different. It is those intuitive sounds that come from your gut instinct. For your generator soul working within this plane, you are here to create energy and satisfaction, and then amplify it out into the world. So you also then respond to other people's requests of you. And this is very much shown in what you told me about your business already, of you have people asking you, should I do this or do I do this? And that gives you something to respond to, which is exactly how you were supposed to be operating. You tend to have a little bit of people pleasing to go into that because you're always wanting to respond to people. And because you have that sacral energy that is the consistent energy, you have the propensity to burn out pretty quickly because you don't know exactly when to stop. Or if you're responding to things that you shouldn't be responding to. A lot of us have been taught to think in our minds about what the answer is supposed to be rather than that guttural and then have the explanation flow from our gut to our brain. And so because of that, we often think with our minds and then we do things that is not actually part of our soul contract. So working with that intuitive feeling, whatever that might be within yourself, is really how you operate and relate into this world. And then just making sure that you do take the time to rest if there's nothing to respond to, which is incredibly frustrating as a generator. And frustration is like our highlighted emotion. When you are feeling frustrated, it means that there is something that you need to be aligning to. Having other people support and understand your needs. If you have somebody ask you yes, no questions, you will tend to have a better relationship with them than if you have somebody who asks you open-ended questions or even journal questions. 70% of the world are generators or manifesting generators and should be operating under the understanding that they need those yes, no questions. Your intuition is very, very strong. Because you're a sequential being, i.e., if you order something from IKEA, you're going to go through the instruction manual and follow each and every step to achieve the cabinet of your dreams. And that works for everything. You are here to put the pieces in order and see every single piece that needs to be done in order to achieve the goal. So You have your own speed. It's kind of turtle speed, but a lot of times we end up winning in the end because we're not skipping steps, or we're not so focused on the system that we forget to actually do the work. So it's all about these sequences of systems and processes which are set up by projectors. So that's a different type, as you saw on the previous slides. We are constantly needing communication and informing. We need something to respond to, and we don't have something to respond to. We tend to get a little bit frustrated. We then are out of alignment, or even if we're just waiting, a lot of times, we won't have direction from divine source. And in that moment, there's probably a lesson we're supposed to be learning, but we get really, really frustrated. And as soon as we learn our lesson, fall into alignment, then we can move forward with whatever we need to do on our soul's journey. If you don't follow your intuition and you just kind of start working within your head constraints, then you tend to burn out and things tend to be a little bit harder. We also have a lot of energy. The sacral center is the only energy motor, therefore, within the human design chart that has consistent energy. As a pure generator, you have a sacral authority, and we kind of talked about this in the last couple of slides. It's that yes, no, that intuition that you have really developed your craft upon. Your gut instinct has really, really been your guide, and you have taken that to heart, and that's really served you well in life. Like I mentioned, a lot of people who have a sacral authority tend to actually use their mind a lot because that's what we've been conditioned to do. And in that conditioning, they don't get to know their true selves and therefore get waylaid and then burnt out. Your sacral authority is that yes, no, gut instinct, gut response. And when you're talking about your business and you're talking about kind of like paring down and what serves you and what is really serving you now, especially with the amount of content and offers that you have, in your gut instinct which one of those offers you want to be offering, that you need to contribute time and energy to, and which ones you don't. So sacral authority is not just to answer yes, no in response to, is this what I want to do? It's also in response to, do I have time for this, or is this the right time? And do I have the energy for this, or do I not have the energy for this? It's all of those do I, is it, should I? It's always that yes, no type questions. I, at one point in time, had started a journaling process where instead of asking those open-ended questions, I had ChatGPT go through and rephrase each one open-ended question into 5 yes-no questions. And then from the yes-no gut instincts that I got from those questions, was able to then fill out the full thought process of what is my intuition trying to tell me, and how do I translate all of those different yes no's into one concrete idea. And working around those yes no questions is the best way to work with your sacral authority. It takes a little bit longer because you have to ask more questions and really clarify, what does that yes no mean? And a lot of times you'll go in and you'll be answering or yes or no. And then all of a sudden you'll get a kind of like a, I don't know, or, and you'll feel the jump from knowing in your gut, or for me, it's actually like a little physical pling in my gut, to going up into your head and be like, and you'll know as soon as that happens that you need to investigate that area a little bit more. The 2-far profile line is kind of an interesting combo because it's a little bit of an oxymoron. So one side of you really, really likes that inner sanctuary, being at home, being with yourself, being within your own knowledge and working in your own seclusion, and really honoring that downtime to kind of rest and be on your own and not be receiving everybody else's energy. And then the 4 side of you is all about the networking and the socialization and being there to connect everybody's dots and really bring everybody's ideas and talents to the entire community. So the line 2 side is very, very wise, and there's a lot of wisdom within your chart individually, and people will constantly be asking you to come out even though you don't necessarily feel like it. So you probably have been invited to come out and socialize or invited to events or whatever all the time, and you don't necessarily feel in alignment with that all of the time. So it's really important as a 2-4 to really honor that sacral response of, should I go out? Should I go socialize? Is this the right time? Are these the right people? And really honoring that as to where you need to use your gifts and use that 4 side of the profile line. Your line 4 is the opportunist or the stabilizer. So you really are that community foundation layer. You really, really are the person who's kind of the glue between all of the bricks and the foundation. You're all about sharing and spreading of the ideas. This is a design side of you. So people see this in you, and you might not see it in yourself because it's unconscious for you. Your line 2 side is all about using all of your knowledge within your glue to spread it throughout the community, and wait for other people to finally be ready for you to share that knowledge. That's why when people call you and it's like, hey, do I do this or do I do this? You have all of that content that's all there and ready for them to be able to share that and enlighten them, inspire them with those ideas, and connect them to the right people to complete their mission. So your incarnation cross is the right angle cross of the 4 ways. People who have the right angle cross tend to speak about experiences that they had in relation to how you can help others. You don't tend to use I statements. You tend to use you statements a little bit more. People with a left angle cross tend to use I statements because that's the experiences that they've lived. And so we are supposed to learn lessons from them, whereas right angle cross people, as yourself, are supposed to tell their stories as in how you see that you can help us moving forward. So slight nuances in your cross, but the right angle cross, incarnation cross, is really described as the pivot queen. So you tend to potentially have ran your life in segments of about 18 years. And you kind of have like this theme that runs for about 18 years. And it's not to say that you haven't pivoted in that time, but you will probably have distinct cycles of your life that are each about 18 years. And because of this, you have learned to pivot and you've learned to change and adapt to your situation. So what you're really, really here is to help people make sharp turns. People see you as an authority on pivoting. They literally come into your life so that you can help them pivot. And that really kind of goes into your ultimate soul purpose in life, which is kind of at the very, very end of the reading. But when you tie all of your ability to not only know when to end a project and start a new project, but know that the end of the project is coming and what to start as a new project, is a very, very divine gift that you have because of your incarnation cross. Next, we're going to get into a little bit of the nuances of how the energy flows through your chart. So each one of these centers is a theme of energy within your chart. And while you have every part of your chart, whether or not it is highlighted and colored in or white within your body graph chart, it is about how you experience this theme of energy within your life. So areas that are colored in are areas that you have consistent energy in. Areas that are open or uncolored or undefined are areas that you are here to be wise about because you borrow that energy either from other people or from the planets. So as they transit through the universe, which is where a lot of the astrology within human design comes in. So these energetic themes, if you are with somebody, you might notice that you are feeling a really, really unique sense about fear, or you're feeling very, very emotional and you're not normally an emotional person, or you are feeling like you have a lot more willpower than you do normally. There's different ways that it manifests itself. So we're going to break down each one of these centers and kind of what the general theme is within your chart. Your chart has an open head, and that means that you are here to be wise about other people's ideas. So you also tend to be energized from a certain place or a certain person or certain things, and that you probably have a favorite place that you go that feels really, really energizing. So you gain a lot of energy from outside sources. People with an open hand tend to feel a lot of pressure to figure things out. How to figure things out, I just need to figure out, is a phrase that I commonly say with my open head. Or how is this going to work? Seeding with all kinds of that uncertainty. So one of the ways to really, really anchor that energetically is, to just trust that the universe is going to figure it out for us, and that we will be shown the way. With this wisdom about ideas, it works really, really well into your business, because you are able to sample and look at the ideas from everybody that you have as clients and understand whether or not they're your ideas or somebody else's ideas. Your chart has a open ajna. The ajna center is really about concepts and putting all of the pieces together, kind of like the puzzle maker within the chart. So you are really, really wise about other people's concepts and how to put things together. You're very open-minded. You have a lot of you're open to different perspectives and different fragments of the same idea, which kind of goes back to your incarnation cross a little bit. You may struggle with certainty or a lot of data. People who have a defined ajna are really, really good at analyzing data. So you might not remember all of the details of stuff, because you're more about the overall concept and being open to everybody's ideas and making sure that everybody's perspective is seen and heard. You have a undefined throat, and what that means is that generally you need to be invited to speak. You also are very, very wise about what other people need to hear, because you have used your open head and your open ajna to really, really take in everybody's ideas, take in everybody's opinions, be very open-minded to how this all works together, and then speak the truth however you need to be invited to speak the truth. People with a open or undefined throat tend to be seen as a little bit of attention-seeking or needing to speak their truth. And so it comes across as that you're trying to get a word in edgewise, whereas you have a lot of wisdom within the areas that you're meant to speak. You just have to be invited to speak. You have an open G center. So this is all about love, self-love, love of spirit, love of humanity, love of others, love of everything. And each one of the little numbers within your G center is a specific area of love within humanity and on this earth. You are here to really, really be smart and wise about all of those different areas of love. You can pursue other people's dreams because of that. You can really, really understand and attach yourself to their feeling of love for their dream or their goal, or to other people, because of that. And you can also take on the identity of other people, which leads into your clairvoyance probably quite a bit. You tend to question whether or not you can be loved for who you truly are, though. So in that, understanding that you are lovable and working on those self-love, and not just like the spa date, but like actually loving yourself for who you are, is one of the main goals and lessons within your life. You also can be seen as deeply sensitive, because your love goes deep, and you are able to sample the energies of everybody else around you who has those defined love centers. So originally there were 7 pieces to the chakra, and then they split. 2 of them split to create 2 more pieces, which is how you get nine centers. So the identity and the will center used to be one center, but now they have a little bit of differentiation. So this is why you have aspects of identity, the self-love part of identity, like, do I love myself? And then the will aspect of the identity, which is like, am I valuable? Will people accept me for who I am? Do I have value in the community? So with an undefined will, you tend to try to overprove yourself a little bit, and have a lot of questions about the value of things, the worth of things. Is this going to be influential in people's lives? And you also have no regulation. So you will work yourself into the ground trying to prove yourself. So you really, really need to anchor into that, just kind of making sure that you're resting a lot and working with your sacral authority of the yes and in intuition. And I feel like you may have more of an intuitive pull than that with your sacral, because you work on a different plane than the physical body a lot of times. So I would just pay attention and kind of play with that sacral response of like, what is that intuitive response that's not a mental response? Once you get up in your head and you start thinking in your head and not in your body, or however that's manifesting itself on a different plane, then that's where you're going to get yourself into trouble and really, really burn yourself out. You have an open emotional solar plexus. So this is kind of where your emotions are housed. However, emotions have been inconsistent for you in your life. And because of that, you either probably are very, very emotional or highly unemotional, as far as other people see you. So you can be seen as pretty cold, or you can be seen as the kindest of kind person. It kind of vacillates one way or the other, and it could be, specific to a subject or situation. This is what really gives you the ability to be very empathetic, intuitive, read the room. However, large groups probably really, really wear you out because you are absorbing everybody's emotions. The biggest thing with this open emotional center is that if you're in a situation that seems really, really dramatic, if you take yourself out of that situation for about 15 minutes, you'll start to feel better. And learning that other people's emotions do not have to be reacted to. So very much in meditation, like, hey, that's a thought. I don't have to dwell on it. Just observe that it's there and let it pass. So don't be a sponge, and let other people's emotions pass by you. One of the defined centers within your chart is your sacral center. So this is all about your intuition, that yes, no, the energy. You probably really have to kind of wear yourself out every day. And that is, through exercise. So if you have an exercise practice where you exercise every day, it doesn't have to be strenuous, but you need to move your body every day, in order to kind of wear yourself out. Otherwise, you probably have a really, really hard time going to sleep. A lot of generators tend to be a little bit of night owls because they just have so much energy left over that they didn't burn through. You like to do things in sequential order. And then, because you have so much energy, you tend to, especially in conditioned ways, by not knowing what you were supposed to be saying yes or no to with your intuition, maybe not a problem for you anymore, but potentially was as you were growing up, was you burnt yourself out on saying yes to things because you had the energy to do it, but it wasn't necessarily the right thing for you to do. So this is all about the waiting to respond, which you seem like you have gotten the knack of having people ask you questions and you can be the resource for. So that really gives you the opportunity to respond to them in that sacral way. Your root center is all about the timing of things and feeling the pressure to be on time or to not be on time, or to meet deadlines, make sure that things are wrapped up. So this is really all about timing, when to talk to somebody, when to do something, Because you have this open root center, you tend to be really, really wise about time. So that really helps with your incarnation cross, actually, because this is your ability to know intuitively when something is time to move on and when it's time to stay, when it's time to talk to somebody. So this is really all about the timing of everybody's thing, networking, and how the energies all work together on this plane. You have a defined spleen center, and this spleen center is really where we kind of house that survival fears. So this is really kind of where we have kept the stories of humanity and what it takes to survive, what things are good, what things are bad. Like don't fall into a tar pit. And this is over lifetimes, like not just this lifetime. This is all of humanity's stories of how to stay alive and how to succeed as humans. So a lot of these stories tend to be a little generational, and you really have to kind of evaluate whether or not that is a fear that is valid for this time and day and place, or whether that's something that you have been told, deep within your genetics, and whether that story is still accurate today. This also really probably assists you in the pivoting and that instinctual moving around that you do for your clients of, what should I do to survive this situation? Because you have a lot of wisdom around money, with those survival type fears. It's really the four walls of, do I have enough resources to survive? Do I have enough shelters to survive? Do I have enough food to survive? Do I have the things that I absolutely need to survive? And if not, how do I get them? Now that we've learned about the centers, we can start to learn about everything that connects the centers. So just like in electronics and electricity, you have connections between terminals. So like the outlets in your house have wires that go between them. Not all of those wires are connected, but when they are, the outlet works. And when it's not connected, it will be an ungrounded wire, and look for any way to be able to send that energy where it needs. So in the next slide, we'll get into how the different energies within the chart show up in those nuanced ways. When we look at the human design chart, it looks like some kind of ancient scribey thing. But the way that you really kind of break it down is that if you look on the left-hand side, this is your design, and this is basically how you feel kind of about yourself and how you feel you operate. Each one of the numbers there is the gates. That is where the planet was sitting at the time that you were designed, which is about 88 days before you were born. On the right side is your soul purpose, or your personality type side. And that is really how people see you. It is where the planets were sitting in the gates when you were born. So what that does is that creates all of these little electromagnetic channels within your soul. If you have a line that connects two channels that's colored all the way through, that's called a channel, and you will feel that energy consistently. See, it's like a full sentence of themes. So it's like sending this lens of energy over to this lens of energy to create a complete sentence of something that other people really, really need. So it's something you have a lot of wisdom in. If you have a channel that has one side colored and one side open, that's called a hanging gate, and there is an area where you will constantly be searching for other people to fulfill that energy for you, or planets to fulfill that energy for you. Planets have themes, though, of how they affect your energy or reflect your energy. And so for example, Jupiter is always seen as like big daddy energy, and say the gate number 10 is self-love. So if you were to have Jupiter sitting in a transit in your 10th gate, then that would mean that at that moment in time, you would feel the love for yourself the same way that your father loved you. So that's kind of how you can translate the different lenses. So it's kind of like when you go to, an optometrist or look at a microscope, and you're able to put different lenses in front of the viewing screen so that you can see things in a different light. The 2057 channel, which is the channel that is connecting your spleen to your sacral, which are your two defined centers, is a channel that is really all about accessing that higher divine wisdom. So, and then processing it and bringing it into the world. So it's really kind of this birthing of divine wisdom type energy. And this is probably why you have all of the psychic and shamanic type abilities and gifts that you do, is because this is really your sustained energy in this life. So when we look at all of your chart, everything put all together, all of the gates and the lines and all of the little nuances within your chart, what we really get is that people see that you are connecting them to the system. You are their guide to their spiritual abilities, which is absolutely fantastic for your business. And I love that this is actually what your soul has for you. But you might see that as you are constantly trying to identify new ways to evolve and pivot, which goes back into that incarnation cross. And as long as you operate within those, guardrails, then it doesn't matter necessarily what business you do. As long as you are finding new ways to connect people to their spiritual gifts, you will find success in life. Let's chat about your business. Your business is a projector. So basically what that means is that it doesn't necessarily have any motor center within itself. It gains energy from everybody out and around it. It needs to be invited to have energy to do something. And it very much is a systems and processes type of business. The profile line is a 3-5. The 3-5 line tends to come with a lot of trauma and a lot of overcoming type energy, which we'll get into when we talk about the profile and the lines a lot. Ways that you're going to know that your business is either happy or not happy is kind of based on feedback and a general overall feeling of your business. So you're going to have that overwhelming sense of success when your business is doing well. Like you walk in and you just feel successful. And if things are not going well, you're going to start feeling a lot of bitterness and resentment towards either your business or your clients. So areas where, you've gone through and moved and transitioned and pivoted and they weren't necessarily the greatest and you got some negative feedback, or you started to feel resentment for your clients because, they weren't paying or whatever was causing the resentment. That is very much because that's not in alignment with what your business was supposed to do. And then your business has a couple of channels within it that are connecting your heart center and your throat center. So your business is very much kind of the voice of the partnership between you and it. This is all about the ideas of inspiration, fulfillment, and then that collective consciousness. So very much that community aspect that you also mirror within yourself. Your business's type is that of a projector or an orchestrator if we're using the more positive quantum language. And what that really means is that they are here to create the systems and processes that connect people. So they're not about the individual necessarily pieces that need to be done to get from point A to B. They are here to buy the IKEA cabinet and hire somebody to put it together and put it in place. So they're all about the framework and the systems and how you get kind of from point A to point B. They see the overall vision. They see what everybody can do, what everybody's talents are. And then they use that to their advantage. And they're a lot of, as a business owner, it's really about who, not how. How does your business operate out in the world? So as a self-projected projector, your business really is here for recognizing other people's direction and really connecting with the systems and frameworks that others are supposed to be using. So this kind of feels like they like to talk through things. Your business is very talkative, and not in actual words, just that it is definitely processing things. And I can tell that there's a lot of stories that it would like for me to hear if I have the time to hear them. And it's kind of at that point right now where it's like, do you want to hear some stories? So it would love to tell me all kinds of stories about you in your past lives. This feels kind of like a pull in your chest. And whereas your business is actually a portion of a prior live's soul fragment, you might feel this pull in your chest when you're making business decisions. So you're going to see this kind of in two ways when you're making business decisions, is that you're going to get a gut instinct and then an instinctive pull in your chest because of that soul connection to your business. Not all businesses have that soul piece to them where they are connected to somebody else's soul. So that's how things are going to kind of manifest. You also don't have motor centers. So it's really, really important for projectors to not be overworked. So they need a lot of rest and a lot of energy. I think paring down your offerings is really, really good for both you and your business, because you're kind of both at a point, and your design is very much telling you guys that you need a lot of rest and seclusion. Projectors do not like to be necessarily around a lot of people, just because they are constantly being bombarded with other people's energies because they have so many open centers, and you yourself have the same amount of open centers. So both you and your business are probably really, really selective as to who your clients are and what your social situations are. What does your business need from you and other people? Your business is all about the insights and advice. It's a very wise part of your soul. So other people need to recognize that while you may be blunt, your intentions are meant to be helpful, and that you're not trying to offend them. You need a lot of support in just kind of knowing that your existence is okay, and that you aren't doing anything wrong because you're not like working like a generator. You have a lot of ideas that you need to be invited to share. You're going to have waves of desires, whether they're not going to be consistent. Open-ended questions. So manifestors and projectors need those open-ended journal type questions, not the yes no questions. So it's very much a tell me about. And not all generators. So to invite a generator, I would say something along the lines of, would you like to tell me? Because that adds the invitation piece to the tell me open-ended question. They like undivided attention when you're talking to them. They just need to talk. They really don't want your advice. They just need to talk through it, because they need to hear themselves speak in order to know what the correct guidance is. And they need you to ask them for their opinions and guidance. And then just that downtime and solitude. Your business has a G authority, or a heart authority. So the heart actually is a really, really powerful electromagnetic energy source. So the magnetic pole is huge. There's a whole bunch of wonderful science on the electromagnetics of the heart, and everything that the heart has power to do. So this, you can really feel like an electromagnetic pull in your chest area when you have this authority type. So with this powerful electromagnetics, you basically get the energy field, which creates your aura. And that aura is a very, very powerful magnetic being. When you are making decisions for your business, because it's part of your soul, and this is not something I'm saying to all business owners, because not all businesses are a part of their soul. They're a lot of times just an extension of themselves, but not a physical part of their soul, from a different lifetime. So you're going to feel this in your chest. You're going to know that right answer. So when you're going through decisions that have to do with both you and your business, you need to make sure that it's not only aligning sacrally for you, but also you're feeling that pull in your chest. So that's how you're going to know that you're in alignment and with whatever decision you're making for your business. The 3-5 profile is a combination of kind of an explorer who then comes back as somebody who's really, really knowledgeable about everything that they have learned while out exploring. So it's very much a been there, done that type experience, and have a lot of knowledge to share because they've done everything and dipped their toes in everything and are able to share their perspective of how that worked for them or didn't work for them. They do tend to be a little bit on the lines of, while this may not have worked for me, it might be the perfect thing for you, or I would explore this aspect or type of it. So it tends to be a very accepting profile, in that they are open to everybody having a different outcome than they had in that exploration. So the line 3 is a explorer. Your business has probably been through change after change after change, and it probably likes these changes. It likes to explore things and explore modalities and see what works and what doesn't work. There is no failure for a line 3. It is all learning something for somebody who needs to know that lesson. And your greatness comes from pretty much knowing everything about everything. So that line 3 is really actually a great thing for your business. The line 5 is it's a beautiful disaster. So line 5s can tend to have this kind of savior complex where everybody thinks that you're going to fix all their problems, only to find out that you were really the savior yourself. So a lot of line 5s end up having things projected onto them that are not necessarily accurate or good for them, and it can cause problems. So you need to be careful within your business that people really understand what they're going to be getting out of their business and what their part in their own healing is, and that is something that they are bringing to the table, not necessarily your business. However, you can guide them on that and instruct them on that and keep them accountable in that journey, but the actual healing work is done themselves. So just kind of some things to think about in the line 5 and the line 3 as you work with your business. Your business is Incarnation Cross, which is kind of a combination of areas in your business is defined and kind of gives you a little bit of a purpose within why you are here. It's one of the keys that we look for when we're looking at why you're here, is that your business has people pass through it when they need to awaken a pressure to be better. So it's all about that kind of coming out of that depressed state or coming out of that indifferent state. Some adjectives that kind of describe that are betterment, pressure, improvement. The cross is described as a cross of service because of its function about pushing to be better. So this is a very motivating energy. You can also have people use this because they have gone through so much pressure and they have gone through so many explorations and adventures where they had to experience this themselves, and so they're inspiring to other people because they've seen that they have come out of it, and people are looking for guidance on how they came out of such a hard, tense type situation. When we're specifically talking about that in relationship to your business being a projector, it is about finding your way to the cross of pressurized improvement by being recognized and invited to situations where they can effectively guide and facilitate the awareness. Let's look at your business's centers. So much like you, your business only has 2 defined centers. So we're only going to talk about the defined centers for your business, mostly because when we start accumulating businesses and clients, you tend to have definition in all areas, especially within your chart. You will find that you have that definition within all of those areas just between you and your business's connections, except for that will center, which is all about the self-worth and the value piece. So let's discuss the 2 centers that your business feels consistently, and that's whether you're with the business or not. So if you were to sell the business, it would have these 2 consistent energies itself. Your business has a defined heart, and when you have a defined heart, you are here to really, really express love in its highest form and its highest value. You're very, very accepting of pretty much everybody in every situation. You're very decisive about that, though. The question you tend to ask yourself is, can I be accepted for who I really am? If they knew who the true me was, would I be acceptable to them? You can kind of live anywhere or have a location anywhere with a defined heart. So being remote is perfect for your business. So you also have a defined throat for your business. So your throat is all about speaking the truth and the relationships and how you work about those relationships. So this is very much brings you a lot of voice in your business and kind of the knowing the timing of who and when to speak to, because it's connected to your G center. It is all about knowing information and speaking from the depths of your soul. So this is one of the things that was really, really highlighted in this being a fragment of your soul. In that, and I got the messages from your business before I went through each of the details of your chart, but this is just like it's really hitting home as like, like this is part of the message that is trying to share with you. Your business has the channel of inspiration, and this is really, really associated with the ability to initiate and start new projects. So this channel is all about you giving people the power within their business to start and choose the right direction, because people come to you with a lot of questions on that. So this is really the part of your business that is highlighting that ability and consistency in your business and what you offer. So the 1333 channel is the collective consciousness. So this is all about basically collecting talents and growing over time. So in looking at all of the different content that you have and all of the growth that you can literally document for the course of your business over the past 20 years, this is really speaking to this channel of collective information and conscious information that you have gathered for everybody. When we look at the design purpose and the personality conscious purposes behind your business, what we see is that your business almost mirrors your personality in evolving through breakthrough solutions. So you're all about evolving the systems, which is on the same kind of a phrase that came to mind. And the personality and what it always feels like it's doing is it's here to show us how it's better than what we have. So that connecting to your gifts, your spiritual gifts, is all about showing people what they have, what is better than what they currently have, and upgrading their gifts. So when you get your business and your charts put together, you really take the two centers that you have defined and the two centers that your business has defined when you're separate, and you put them together, and you basically get everything except for the will center. And this is what I mean by your business really completes you and is part of your soul, other than that one value identity. And identity is an interchangeable word for me because of the split between the identity and the will center. So there is a little bit of nuanced difference in that it's the valuing yourself part of your identity, the self-worth, and that part, that's what both of you are searching for in this lifetime. I was able to connect with your business before I went into a lot of these details of that, and really got that this is a portion of your soul. So when your business came to me, it really wanted to tell me that it was a past life entity. It had a really, really traumatic death, and it wasn't able to escape with its whole entire soul. And so it was a fragmented piece of your soul because of the fragment, or because of the trauma from the death. Like you weren't able to have your soul exit your body in one piece. I do not do past life stuff. So this for me is all coming from your business, and I really don't have a ton more information on that. I just have what your business told me. But so the way, and I went in and then I was looking at the gates, which is not something that I generally do in these readings, just because the gates are so nuanced in the little energies that they bring. It changes with the transit, it changes with who you're around. So those are things that when you're starting to struggle in your business and you're like, hey, like I'm really feeling frustrated, or I'm really feeling bitter, there's a lot of resentment. Can we talk about these emotions and these feelings that we're really, really having and experiencing right now? Like, I use EFT tapping to kind of work through and help you process those emotions. But if you look at the gates that are in the heart center of your business, it is the gate 10, which is all about self-love, and then the gate for now and the past and the future, which is a beautiful description of you have this enduring love for yourself that's going to last forever. And this is like the portion of your soul that kind of caused you to come back because you love yourself so much. That's what I kind of got from all of that. So when we look at it all together, you guys end up being a manifesting generator, which means you have a lot of energy, and you complete each other. You create a lot of channels of information. So we're going to get into those combined channels. And then we're going to talk a little bit about that open will center and what that actually kind of means for your business. And then kind of like, what is your aligned phrase or slogan, you could say, as kind of an anchor point to make sure that everything that you're dreaming about and trying to achieve really anchors in to both of the alignment for you and your business. When we look at all of the channels that you and your business create together, that consistent energy, and basically the complete energy sentence, and then this now is going to create a circuit. So this is kind of like how power comes into your house, and then it transfers through the whole house to create like a whole network of energy throughout your house. So what we really get in the full process of this is we get that you and your divine connection with source and your inspiration that comes from source, the constant communication that you have there really helps to inspire people and give them the ability to move forward in a form that is divine for them. So you're inspiring people, and you really kind of bring this full circuit of, like guiding people through these really, really intense transformations and what they have going on in their business. So when you're looking at what you've actually created with the Spirit Guide School and the product that you and I talked about yesterday, the business alignment, it is this glorious product that is really, really anchored in a lot of what your chart has to offer. So yesterday I mentioned this a little bit in our brief text, and this is your undefined will center. And even when you and your business combined into that full chart, this is the only center that remains undefined, meaning that other people are going to give you a whole sampling of what this energy could feel like and what feels right. So in this is really an exploration, and I feel like this is kind of what the joint life purpose of what you and your business are trying to experience together. Something about the number 37 also really, really came up in this. So 37 is a number that might have to do with this, or it could also be 3 and 7, which is 10, which is really 1 if you want to go into numerology. I'm sure that your guides are going to maybe enlighten you as to what that might mean for you. But what you're really, really searching for, and you're sampling for everybody else to see what is the right fit within your soul, I think honestly, so that you can reincarnate back into the full soul piece in your next life, is what is this value, this self-worth, this self-discipline, self-regulation. It's all about that selfie piece, which is why I said identity yesterday, because that's what the message that I was getting from your business soul fragment. And it's honestly, it might have been a piece of your soul that broke apart before the identity center and the will split, that's coming back to you. So it's something to really, really explore is that whole, do I feel like I can be accepted for who I am? Do I feel worthy to do whatever I need to do or to move into the next life? Do I see myself as valuable? Not necessarily other people seeing you as valuable. This is about self-value, self-worth, self-discipline type themes around what is the correct energy to complete your soul. So when I connect up everything and look at everything, kind of the phrase that comes to mind that is the alignment connection point between you and your business is connecting mind, body, and innovation for evolving solutions. And this really kind of goes behind the concept of that we are evolving beings and we are mentally evolving more than physically. It's not, like the Darwin physical evolution. We're more in a mental evolution now to expand ourselves universally and into different planes of consciousness, and really being able to guide people to that conscious level that they are attracted to.
Checking the views.
This concludes your reading.
Well.
I'm sure that there has been lots of thoughts and inspirations and probably a lot of questions that have come up to you, both for your business and for yourself in this reading. I know we have our podcast tomorrow to go over kind of this reading, but I wanted to make sure that you knew you had the opportunity to do the Q&A hour-long Zoom as well. That is just private between you and me. A lot of times there's things we don't want everybody to see as far as the public to see our business. Sometimes it's the way that we operate and things like that. So please feel free to book that Q&A Zoom. I would love to connect and answer any questions that you might have about this reading or insights, with your business or whatever. So I will talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, so we're back. And so, April, do you want to summarize what you sent me yesterday so that we can talk about it a little bit now?
Yeah. So that is a lot of info and there's a lot of details. And I think the thing to understand about human design is that while there are multiples of details and you have this aspect consistently or you have it inconsistently, the most important thing to remember is that if you live by your type and your authority and kind of take stock of the wounds that you have encountered and have learned lessons from in your lifetime and how you've changed the story of those to move on, that you can consistently make decisions for both you and yourself. So with you being a generator, you are very sequential in everything you need to do. Like your question is probably like, what's the next step? And if you don't have the next step, you probably are losing your mind. And just understanding that the universe is going to provide that next step for you. And the hardest thing that we do as generators is just being in that meadow of frustration, that frustration aspect of being a generator. And one of the things that was shown to me in one of my meditations, because I'm also a generator, is that it's very common to go into that hike scenario when you're in a meditation and you're walking down a trail. Well, I was brought to a meadow in this meditation. And what I was told in that is that you are here to rest and recuperate, take a drink of water, eat a snack, put your pack down. And then on the other side of that meadow is, a forest. And you can't exactly see your path through the meadow. And so you get curious and you go and poke around the meadow and figure out like what's on the other side. And in that, you are forging a path for other people while you are resting and recuperating. And it is really, really a place to take stock of what's going on internally so that you can gather your resources and know the best path forward for not only yourself, but the people following behind you.
So what's really interesting about you saying that is that in 2002, so 22 years ago, I went on walkabout. And I did it in my car in the US. I did not do an Australian walkabout, but it's a spiritual pilgrimage, right? And so I lived for a year on $350 a month of unemployment insurance and the kindness of strangers. Yeah. And so at the whole time, if I kept a journal on it. And the whole time I was on this job, I'm like, I'm opening a pilgrim's path and I'm going to make it possible for other people to do this and blah, 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 blah. And what I totally missed in the moment was that I was doing it for me. Right. And that it wasn't okay for me to just do it for me. But what's really interesting now is that I look back and people have heard about the story and they've talked about this and that. And like my virtual assistant right now is on walkabout. Right. And there's so many people over the years who have gone on their own walkabouts and have said, oh, I'm on walkabout. And I learned about it from you. And I'm like, that's so funny because that's not the way I thought about it when I was thinking about it back then. But it is what's happening now. And I'm sure there's more people who are doing it that haven't told me about it. But yeah, that's very interesting to hear it that way because you're like, oh, you're blazing a path. And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly the way I said it.
Yeah. The other thing to remember as a generator, because as a generator, you have sacral authority and everybody has a different authority. There's, several of them as we saw in the reading, is to really, really follow that gut instinct, that yes, no, that the way that I really quickly trained to listen to my sacral authority was to stand in front of the fridge and ask myself, do I want to eat this or do I not want to eat this? And go out to eat, go down the menu. Do I want to eat this? Do I not want to eat this? And that, like, what foods you like and what foods you do not. Like if I say broccoli, how many people just went, like those are those gut feelings. You're not supposed to be operating by your brain. And I think that a lot of us, we get into that mental space and we're thinking like, my brain is so powerful. And while your brain is powerful, if you don't have mental authority, you are denying yourself the way that your soul has intended you to live by not listening to that intuition of your gut. When we talk about your business's authority is that of a projector. And projectors are very, very systems focused, systems and processes. So if your business is not focused on the systems and processes, then your business is working out of alignment. And your business has a G authority or a heart authority. So it's almost like it's got electromagnetic pull of all of its clients. It's going to pull itself to your clients and it's going to pull its clients to it. It's a magnetic pull of what it is supposed to do and what it's not supposed to do. And really leaning into that and feeling those couple of things is going to change how you make every decision in your business. It helps you to shortcut that whirlpool of like, what am I going to do? Am I doing it right? And all of those questions, which are financially so expensive.
Yes. So I will say probably a decade ago, when I first was learning about human design, I found out I was a generator. Kathy, who was my business partner at the time, was also a generator. And the two of us really tried to do a lot of decision making from that generator space. And we failed miserably at it. And looking back, I understand why that was. And it was because we were in a space where our faith and trust in the universe was not so high. And so a lot of our decision making, I'm really good at knowing what my body wants. Really good at that. I am, in fact, Kathy calls me embodiment girl because that's what I do. Right. And so, but I was in such a place of lack back then and so convinced that nobody had any money and so convinced that I couldn't charge what I was worth and so convinced that there was so much going on that I needed to get over in order to get my business to be successful finally. And that those pieces were impacting dramatically my ability to do this work because I was in fear and I was in lack and I was trying not to be. I was trying to be clear, but I was not doing very well with it. So what would you say to someone who would?
So the It's interesting that you say that you were in fear and you were in lack because of your defined sacral, or not your defined sacral, but your defined spleen, because that is literally like the fear center that has been passed down through humanity, like we talked about. So that, especially back then, you hadn't really brought yourself out of that fear of like, what fear is actually real for me, and not been passed down. For working within your body, I love sacral sessions. And basically what that is you're like, I have big decisions. I really am having a hard time with these decisions. I don't know what to do next. I don't know what the next step is. And I don't feel like I have like this great connection with source or the universe or what I'm being told to do. And nobody in society is asking you yes, no questions. Like, it's just like any journal you get is not yes, no questions. It is all open-ended questions. It is not how society works. 70% of the world are generators or manifesting generators and should be asked yes, no questions. So a sacral session is basically just an identifying session where the person asks you yes, no questions, and it helps you determine what you're supposed to do. I combine mine with EFT tapping as well, because a lot of times there are those blocks that you have to work through where you don't know that the reason that you can't make money is tied to your self-worth. And it's all because of this random thing that happened 15-ish years ago. And you're like, oh, well, that's so stupid. Why am I holding on to this still? And it just clears the energy and helps you move through that energy. So when you combine that sacral session with an EFT session, a lot of times it really helps you to either be okay just sitting in the moment and waiting for that next step, or you really get to define like, this is what I need to do moving forward, or this is the next step for right now, and continue those.
Yeah. So you said something interesting in my reading, which is that my business is a piece of my soul that was sheared off in a past life.
So channeling businesses is not something that I think a lot of people do. So this is part of the business alignment reading, and not all businesses want to talk to me. I will say that I have had businesses that are completely confused as to why I like, you are not a client. What the heck are you doing in my space? So I will talk to your business if it wants to talk, but I do get a general energetic feeling of your business. And not all businesses are part of somebody's soul. So your business is unique in that when it showed up as kind of this like injured, hurt feeling, like traumatic event, like somebody who had just been in a car wreck.
Okay.
So, and not car wreck being the specific thing, but that energy feeling. And what I got off of that was that your soul couldn't leave your body fast enough in this past life to get out of it in one piece. And so this is a part of your soul that has come back to find you and complete you, except for there's this one missing quest that you guys have to complete together in your business venture to move on to the next life.
And so based on what you're saying, so in shamanism, we would integrate that missing soul piece. That's called soul retrieval, right? And we would bring that back into ourselves, right? So, because you're talking about there being trauma in the energy, and I'm like, well, wouldn't that create trauma in the business, right? And so the question that I have based on that read is, should I be integrating that piece? Because one, if it's part of my soul, I would never be able to turn the business over to somebody else at some point in the future, right? When I decide to retire or whatever, right? And for two, wouldn't I want to just integrate that piece and bring it home so it can heal rather than leaving it in the business?
I think honestly, with your specific business situation, that would be a conversation to have with your business. Your business is very talkative because it's a projector, and it literally, the way that it processes information is it likes to talk about it and it hears itself. And therefore, it can then process what the next step is. I don't think that it's opposed to you retiring and moving on and selling a piece of it. The piece of energy that you're missing, or the piece of the soul that you're missing, and as we saw in the human design, like that last kind of slide that we went through, is that this is the whole like self-worth and value piece of your soul. And it's almost as if this part of your soul has been broken off for quite a while, because I say identity, but it also deals with that self-worth. And the identity center and the will center used to be combined as part of the 7 chakra system, but now there's the 9 centers. So I have a feeling that you're out here sampling all of the universe's planets' energies and all of your clients' energies and self-worth right now to help you define and fulfill that piece. And once you have defined and fulfilled that piece, your business is fine to move on and not necessarily be that,
and just for the record, for those listening, I have no plans to retire or sell my business anytime soon. Okay.
Everybody's like, wait, hold on.
Just for the record. Okay. Yeah. I'm just, I always look at what are the possibilities, what are the connotations, and, I've got the engineer brain. It's like, okay, where does that go? Right.
Right. It's a real aspect of business of like, hey, what if I don't want to do this anymore? And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't think about in business enough is that you have value in your business. Like, just because you don't want to do this anymore, a lot of people just shut their business down and they don't think about that exit plan or that sale plan.
Yeah, I talk to people about that a lot. Yeah,
you should.
Like, why would you just give away your business by shutting it down? Why would you not sell that? Why, there are ways to prepare your business for that. But yeah,
right. And it might be that you don't necessarily sell certain parts of your business. You just sell the systems and processes that you created. And I think your business would be okay with, like, here's the systems, processes, transcripts, and whatever that you created, because those are the gifts to the world that you guys created together. And that's not necessarily selling part of your soul.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, but I'll sit down and have the conversation, but I'm going to ask the question for those listening, because I know they're going to ask.
Yeah.
But the bit about there being trauma in that part of the soul, and would that, now my business does a lot of work with people who have been traumatized, so that's a resonance. But I would imagine that clearing that trauma would be a good for business.
Yeah. So the 3-5 profile is really interesting in that it just generally carries a lot of trauma. If you look at other 3-5 profiles, which your business is, it's usually the people who end up saying, like, what fucking next? Like, they just can't get ahead in life. Like, they're in traditional human design. And I love to use the quantum human design language because it is the more positive version of human design. And it allows us to highlight our gifts rather than just sit in the shadowy, murky darkness. So if you look at it in traditional human design, a 3-5 profile is heretic and martyr. It's like, there's a lot of trauma in that. It's the karmic mirror of, like, everybody's expecting me to do more than I really can. And they see me the savior of the world. And, like, it's really just their gifts that's going back to them. And I think that the way to clear that trauma is really to learn the lessons that the explorer is supposed to learn, the 3-line that's always told that it did it wrong and it didn't know what to do when it was just exploring. And, like, what are the lessons you're here to teach everybody? And I think there's a distinct piece in every 3-5's profile once they start to figure this out of, like, oh, I am not a complete and total fuck up. I am really here because I was meant to learn more than my own lesson because other people weren't strong enough to.
Interesting dynamic.
And so the trauma in that isn't necessarily the trauma of that portion. It's I am here because I am here to teach everybody else lessons that they were not strong enough to learn on their own. Because my soul and your soul, you're part of your soul, your business's soul, being around as long as it has, as many different lifetimes as it's been through, has an endless amount of content and lessons to teach us. Like, you and your business's dynamic are a very, very wise dynamic. And because you've been around, you've seen everything, done everything, you're able to be like, guys, I know this seems like this shit is really hitting the fan, but we're going to get through this and it's going to be okay. And at the end of the day, the other option wasn't great either, So really moving on from that trauma and that strength to heal yourself is really the part of your business that is the gift.
Okay. So the short answer to my question is no, I don't need to clear the trauma from my business.
No,
okay.
It's part of the gift.
It's part of the gift. Okay, good. So we had talked about the spiritual business consultation work as part of what I was looking at, because obviously I'm launching this and I'm getting great reviews and all of that. But I was just checking in since it is a new launch to see whether it was a good fit, energetic perspective. So you had some thoughts on that?
So in everything that is both in your chart and your business's chart, this launch is really, really aligned for that. It really, really speaks as to the nature of what both you and your business are supposed to be doing in that aligned space, is that you're really supposed to be using these lessons and all of this content and all of this wisdom that you guys have to help other people connect to the spiritual system.
Okay. Yeah, which is exactly what it's for.
It's exactly
helping
what
people
you do.
figure out, is my business doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? Do I have the right business model? Do I have the right offer? Is it positioned properly? Am I selling to the right people? Blah, 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 blah. Right. It's that whole overview thing. So yeah. Okay. So anything else that you feel like I should absolutely take from this full reading that I need to know before we wrap up for the time here?
One of the things that I just love to highlight in all of the readings and everything is just how magical and unique and what a divine part of the cosmic plan each individual is and each business is within the universe. Without you, none of the plan is possible.
Well, that's very sweet.
And that goes for everybody, like everybody who's listening. Like, you have so much magic and so much power within yourself, and moving that forward and just really sitting in that reality.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I was talking with several people this week, actually, and we were talking about ego death and things like that, and I was talking about the fact that if you could let go of your current self-definition sufficiently, you could immediately step into full enlightenment. But most of us are not willing to let go of those stories. And so we have to do it in incremental stages, right? And that's part of the process. And so what you were just saying is, you're an infinitely creative being living in a physical body, right? And believing yourself to be far smaller than you are. And so if you just open to the concept that you are in fact inherently magical and inherently powerful and inherently connected to all that is, then your entire anything you create is also that, because it's a piece of you, right?
And anything that you create in alignment is even more. Then you have to get into the energetic frequencies of, like, if you're creating it out of alignment, it's going to be a lower frequency, but if you're creating it in alignment, then it's a higher frequency. Variations.
And so, all of this creation and all of this beingness and all of the things, right, is what allows us to bring our fullness of our authentic selves into reality, right, into beingness. And, it's very interesting for me to listen to that reading, because you mentioned a lot of things that used to be issues for me in my life. You were like, oh, you're like this and you're like that. And I'm like, not for a few years, but yes, And so it just allowed me to look at it and go, oh yeah, I've learned a bunch of the lessons that I was supposed to learn along the way, right? And I've picked up a bunch of more information, and my life view has changed dramatically over the years, and my motivation has changed dramatically over the years, and so. It was very interesting to look at it from that perspective, because it's kind of like a birth chart, right? It's what you start with, right? And then it evolves as you evolve. Hopefully you evolve. Yes.
You evolve into greatness or you evolve into the shadowland.
Yeah, into the frustration and misery. Yeah, and then you end up stuck in the misery box. And if you don't know what the victim in the misery box is, go to Spirit Sherpa and look up the victim in the misery box. I did an entire episode on it. You will want to listen to that. So this has been really, really interesting. And when we talked about this, I do a specific kind of read for businesses that is based on, and by the way, I still use the 7 chakra system. So the third chakra has the identity in it and has the will center in it. It's all there, right? So I'm still using that system because that's the one that makes me happy. And that's where I work with it within the structure. And when I do my readings, I work on, that seven chakra system. And the interesting thing is that when we talked, you were like, oh, and I just go talk to your business. And I was like, that's interesting. I haven't anthropomorphized my business in that fashion and like had a conversation with it. I just didn't think to. And I was like, thank you for the gift. Best gift you can give a shaman is a new perspective, right? And so I'm going to go, and I wanted to finish the reading fully and have this conversation with you. But now I'm going to go talk to my business and see what it says. But when I do my readings, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the energetics within the structure. And then saying, okay, this sort of energetic will create this sort of issue and that sort of issue. And these are the different ways in which it'll impact your business and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's for larger companies, it's hey, I want to merge with this other company. And I can look at it and go, ooh, energetically, you're going to need to do this and this and this to make that work. Or, yeah, this is a good fit. Or no, don't do this. It'll be a nightmare. Or, we're launching a new marketing initiative. Is that going to work? Whatever. Right. So, I was looking at it from a very different perspective than you are. And, I'd look at past life stuff and, whatever else might come up along the way. But this is a different way of seeing it. So I really appreciated that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, just a different pair of sunglasses.
I know, right?
One of the things that has really helped me in all of that kind of like, that applied to me, like earlier in life, but it doesn't necessarily apply now, is the gene keys. If you haven't ever looked at the gene keys, each one of the gene keys is the same as the gates in human design. And it takes you from shadow and shadow work all the way up to the city, which is the most enlightened and highest vibration that you can reach within that gate. So when you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling like really depressed or really unworthy, you can, look at your chart, see what the transits are, and then be like, oh, well, this is why this is being highlighted right now. Like with Pluto right now, or well, no, Pluto's out now. With the whole like Pluto into Aquarius, like there is so much that's going on with that and so much clearing and shadow work that's coming around because those are the gates that are being highlighted in everybody's charts, and that we've just gone through. Like that is some of the biggest transition in our lifetimes because we're not going to have that again. Like this is once in a lifetime clearing opportunity to have cleared all of that old shadow work of what Pluto was highlighting as it was dragging itself through our lands.
Yeah. And Pluto is in my 12th house. It's in my astrology chart. So that's always fun too. Yeah. So in the gene keys, is that something? So you and I have talked about this. I've never gotten deep into human design just for the same reason I've never gotten deep into astrology, which is it's way too complicated and I don't have the patience for it. Is a gene key, is that something that you can go and just type in stuff and it'll give it to you? Or do you have to actually go and plot things and learn things that way?
You don't have to go and plot things and learn things. There's a lot of information. It's very much like human design. The biggest hack that I've kind of found with it is like, if I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I'm like, hey, does this resonate with any of my gates or any of my gene keys? And then go find what I'm feeling and what am I working on? Like, what is the highest vibration of this sad feeling that I'm having? And how do I get out of it? Like, I'm feeling this way. What's the work I need to do to get out of it?
Okay.
And so I start with the feeling and then research from there. You can definitely Google that. The other way to really, really work with it and that I have found is to do EFT.
Okay.
And that the EFT tapping, because it's grouped together into like, instead of 64 gates, you only have like 9 keys that you have to work with. And it just the energy flows, and you think you're starting over here, but it's somehow connected over here, down here, up here, and over here. And by the time your 45 minutes is done, you feel much better.
Yeah. If you have not heard of EFT before, it's emotional freedom technique is what we're talking about.
Or tapping.
Tapping is what people call it. So yeah. So you can Google that and look that up. So fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And you do some of this work with your clients who are open to it, and with your more advanced level clients. But you've also got, so remember, we started this conversation talking about profit first, right? And so April's got an event coming up December 7th. What's the name of the event?
It's called Pay Yourself a Bonus. So this one focuses on profit first, and it is really hard to merge woo-woo with financial advisory. One of the things that I'm always saying is, does your advisor woo? Because a lot of people don't think about the soul aligned aspect of business and all the stories that you're telling yourself about money. They're just like, oh, do this. But it's like, you have so much work to do to get over it. But the Pay Yourself a Bonus is all about us wonderful entrepreneurs who go out and start businesses and don't pay ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it is a 7-day free challenge. And in that 7 days, we set you up in a profit first system so that it is easy. It is automatic. Like, you literally just set up the accounts, you start depositing money, and it starts transferring it for you. And at the end of the week, you will have money to pay yourself a bonus. It might only be going and getting yourself a cup of coffee, but the point is that you will be able to consistently not only pay yourself, but reward yourself with bonuses as well.
And who doesn't want bonuses? I don't know anyone. I will tell you guys from my perspective, when I implemented Profit First into my business, it changed my life. I went from not filing my taxes because I didn't have the money to pay them to, and that went on for years, by the way, to now I have my money for my taxes set aside. That's sitting in a bank account. It's ready to go. The moment it's due, I'm like, yeah, transfer, done, right? Easy, simple. I'm also not at the end of every year trying to do my entire year's worth of bookkeeping, which is what I used to do. And now instead I'm doing accounting every or twice a month. And at the end of every year, it takes me about 45 minutes to put together my entire tax numbers for my accountant. And then I'm done. It is a painless process now, whereas it used to be something I dreaded forever. And so I highly recommend that this is something that you guys do, because it is, you want to talk about freedom. Wow. That increased my freedom and lowered my stress dramatically. So we will include a link in the show notes for how to get to that. It is a free class, and I highly recommend that you do it. If you've owned a business or you intend to, this is what you want to do. Okay. And I think that's it for this week. Thank you so much for being on the show. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And remember that what you create. So choose wisely.
Thank you so much for having me.
So that's it for today's episode of Spirit Guides Podcast. Head on over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. Every week, one lucky listener who subscribes and posts a review on iTunes will be entered into a drawing for a $10,000 value grand prize and a private reading with Kelle Sparta herself. Be sure to head on over to spiritguidespodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Kelle's gift and join us on the next episode.